Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I want to dive deep into what's coming for the rest of this year into 2022 and especially up until March 2022. And I'm focusing on the Venus retrograde particularly. I was planning to do a podcast actually on it, but there are so many things that I want to show you in the chart to really help you see how the universe, the cosmos, the astrology is speaking to us. It's fascinating. It's so fascinating. And I was just speechless researching all of this. And that's why I felt really called to share it with you. The Venus retrograde will be starting on December 19th. So quite a while from now, but I wanted to already talk about it just because Venus will move into Capricorn already, where she will station retrograde in December, and she will be moving into Capricorn on the new moon in Scorpio, so on November 9th, which is pretty soon. And for me, that already starts the journey and the story of this retrograde and what it will be all about. And she will be in Capricorn up until March 6, 2022. So quite a while, right? Because of her retrograde movements. And during that retrograde cycle and during her time in Capricorn, she will obviously hit a lot of very, very heightened and energetically charged areas in the Capricorn area in our life, right? On a personal level, but also on a global level. Because if you follow the astrology for a while and have been diving into my content, you know how much I've been talking about the Capricorn areas, and we've been working with, first of all, the nodes in Capricorn, Cancer, 2018, 2019. Then we had a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. Now we have Pluto in Capricorn. We had Saturn and Jupiter moving through Capricorn in 2020. We had so many alignments in Capricorn. We had 3 Jupiter-Pluto conjunctions in Capricorn, and obviously eclipses. So there was a lot happening in Capricorn. And why is it important to pay attention to Venus relative to her journey through Capricorn? Well, it is because Venus is creation, right? And because we are destructing literally and renovating the area of Capricorn in the sky, the whole archetype really, it's important to see that we have this opportunity now to build something new, right? Venus is love, Venus is creation. So in a way, she brings healing to all of these Capricorn places, but she does that in, her retrograde cycle, especially because that's when we go inward, that's when we reassess and we reevaluate really where we stand now in those tower moments of our life in the Capricorn area, but also on a global level. What does Capricorn represent? It represents the structures of the world, authority, all the rules and all the government situation stuff, like restriction, of course. That also relates to, of course, like everything that we witness in the global scale. On a global scale, it rules like authority figures, father figures, parents, and all of these things. And yeah, I just want to say that, and that's also why I think it's very telling and significant that we end this year with Venus retrograde and start 2022 also with Venus retrograde. I will probably talk more about this Venus retrograde when we are in it as well in December and obviously January, but I want to give you a heads up already of why this is such a significant cycle. And we will look at obviously the upcoming Venus retrograde, but also the last time Venus was retrograde in Capricorn, which was in 2014. So I'm going to look at those charts, and there's just a lot of cosmic poetry happening in the sky. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen so you can follow me along on what I'm really looking into. And you see there are a lot of charts here. And I started with Venus basically Venus moving into Capricorn on November 5th. So very soon, right? And so we see that she moves into Capricorn literally on the day of the new moon, which is very telling as well. And I will talk more about that on the podcast. Probably I always do full moon and new moon podcasts for you. On the podcast, it's Magic Kathi show, so you can definitely follow that on all iTunes and Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. You will probably find the Magic Kathi show, and that's where I will talk more about it. And so that's where she starts her journey in Capricorn, right? On a new moon in Scorpio, pretty interesting. And we can also see that there are a lot of like tension aspects squaring Saturn, which Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So there is a correlation and a connection here, right? And so that's interesting, right? She starts her journey while we are having this intense new moon, talking about shadow work, deep experiences, but also a new approach, a new intimacy for our life, and really going deeper. And also, you know, this opposition here to Uranus also really telling us that during her time in Capricorn, it will probably all be about, you know, freeing yourself when it comes to self-worth, when it comes to values, when it comes to pleasure and fun and this earthly experience, but all things related to abundance. And I will also talk more about, you know, the correlation to Bitcoin and what that could indicate, just because Saturn right here is forming an exact trine, yeah, to the Bitcoin sun. Not almost exact. The Bitcoin sun is 13 degrees of Capricorn, right? You can visualize that here, which also indicates that Venus will travel over the Bitcoin chart, which I will talk more about too, because that's significant too if you are into crypto. But then also, of course, that forms a sextile, so to speak, right? The new moon will form a sextile to the Bitcoin sun as well. So there are a lot of like things that could be potentially like good, but also unfavorable for Bitcoin, but that's another topic. Why I bring it up is because Venus also rules money, right? So we have to see what happens to the financial system and money during this period as well. So that will be significant. But again, it's all about freeing us. And then Uranus is also this sudden shocking revelation and freeing and innovation. So there might be unexpected events, especially also around the new moon. And especially because it is a complete vibration shift when we have Venus moving from Sagittarius to Capricorn. And that's another thing. So then she will obviously travel during up until December 19th. She will travel all over those Capricorn areas. And, you know, I didn't go into all of the eclipses and all the things we had. We had so many touch points here in Capricorn that she will probably illuminate again. So the eclipses of 2018, 2019, all of those topics, maybe topics related to relationships as well, because you see that Mercury is at the final degree of Libra. So there will be relationship topics, and you can see that forms a sextile. So there is a support and like taking responsibility for your relationships now that you have freed yourself and you've up-leveled your worth and you know what you're worth and you know what you want, right? You have to form different structures, and even for love in the world and how you approach life in that way. And then she will move, or she will station retrograde right after she forms actually a conjunction. I'm actually going to just show you what all the things that she does in December. It's actually pretty mind-blowing. So in November, she obviously enters. So November is pretty, I mean, she squares Chiron and forms a sextile trine to Uranus and the sextile to Neptune, of course. But then in December, we can see a lot of things happening. 2 conjunctions with Pluto. So that's already intense because of Venus-Pluto conjunctions. And obviously she will have those in December, but then we have more Pluto conjunctions actually in 2022, which I will talk about later. But we have the first Pluto-Venus conjunction here, and that will be on December 11th. And then we have a Moon-Neptune conjunction on the same day. So I see that also as a very supportive aspect of upgrading and transforming, you know, Pluto. With Pluto, that's like a death and rebirth for everything related to self-love, self-worth, and even money, financial systems, all of that. It's like a death and a rebirth. So maybe something has to die in your life, right? But then only to be rebirthed by spirit with this conjunction right here on a really deep emotional level through your faith and your optimism as well with Sag energy. So that's pretty intense, but very, I mean, I see it as a beautiful alignment actually. And then we have her literally on Christmas Day, another Pluto Venus conjunction, but this time she will be already retrograde. That's what I was referring to. So she starts her retrograde time on December 19th, right? And what we see here are many important things to consider. So when she stations retrograde, basically, the moon literally exactly moves into Cancer. Okay, that's the opposite sign first and foremost, but then also literally the start of Cancer, 0 degrees of Cancer is also where we had an intense eclipse. But on top of that, we also have Chiron stationing on the very same day. So we have two planets that are pretty significant and telling relative to self-worth and our own personal power in this world, right? Stationing, and Mars on the South Node on that day, which means we have to let go of so many old belief systems and so many old stories that we kept telling ourselves because of those childhood wounds that we have, and really, rebuild ourselves from the ground and rebuild new structures. And that really has to then also have an impact on how we relate to ourselves on an emotional level, on a deep, deep level, right? And it's also where the nodes literally finish their time in Sagittarius and Gemini, which is pretty important as well, because when the nodes move into into Scorpio and Taurus, we have Venus also as the ruler of our destiny, which is also why I wanted to talk about this Venus retrograde in particular, because that means she is one of the core drivers towards our future, right? Which is also why I see this Venus retrograde cycle, as I mentioned before, as this healing power in the Capricorn area that catapults us more so into the future. And we will see later why that is actually the case. So then again, around Christmas, we have her conjuncting Pluto again, this time retrograde. So it's on an even deeper level. We have to die in some sort of way and rebuild ourselves. It's this resurrection, literally, when I think of Christmas, right? It has to happen. And with the moon in Virgo, it's also taking responsibility for our daily actions, our health, and everything that we can do to support ourselves, right? And you see that now up on this point, the nodes already shifted into Taurus and Scorpio, which already means Venus is the ruler, right, of our destiny, and Pluto is the ruler also of our destiny, and they both conjunct together on Christmas. I mean, obviously Scorpio is also ruled by Mars, and Mars, crazy enough, is exactly here, conjunct. I mean, not exactly, but it's a close conjunction, so we can count that both rulers are very significant right here. And that tells us that this Christmas is definitely an intense one. Also, I mean, that's another thing that we can talk about in another area, but you can see that the final square between Saturn and Uranus is basically exact on that day too, which finishes up that orgasmic tension that also is a form of rebirth and recreation, right? That has been ongoing in 2021, right? And now the next story, so to speak, that we deal with is this Venus retrograde and this death and rebirth of our personal power and of our self-love and of our ability and capacity to truly love and to embody love, right? And to really sink in with that love frequency to the bones, because Capricorn rules the bones, right? And so the reason I wanted to talk about this specific retrograde cycle too is because, let me see if I want to, I actually want to talk about this Venus retrograde also in context with Chiron stationing. Chiron stationing, right, means that it somehow is connected to this whole Chiron retrograde cycle. That's at least how I take it. And so I looked back when Chiron started, or Chiron first moved retrograde, which was on July 15, 2021. So in July 2021. And what we see here is Chiron stationing retrograde, of course, but other important things that is basically the story of this whole Chiron retrograde cycle, which is healing a lot about relationships and the people-pleasing aspects that we have, right? But then also, which we see here really beautifully, a Venus-Mars conjunction. And I want you to remember that, because also with this Venus retrograde, there are two very significant Venus-Mars conjunctions happening that catapult us into the future. If you think of Venus and Mars, right, the feminine and masculine coming together, creating something new, birthing something new, that right here was birthing your brightest light, right? Leo is ruled by the sun. Also what you want to create, right? It's also creative energy, which is also what Leo represents, your personal power, all of that, right? Being the star of your own movie, right? Not people pleasing anymore, taking your power back, really creating the life that you want, right? And really being your own emotional support system. And you see that here, Pluto was retrograde in Capricorn, literally opposite the sun, which usually when I talk about Pluto and Pluto in the birth chart especially, it's about Pluto, and the integration point is the opposite side. So the opposite side, the integration, was illuminated by the sun, which what is the integration here? It's the rebirth and restructuring of the world and of your own, of your own life, basically, how you build your life. And how do you do that? Through really embodying and nurturing yourself, mothering yourself, caring for yourself, having that own home and stability for yourself by creating the life that you want, taking your personal power back, and really healing from those childhood wounds and letting go of those people-pleasing aspects. And obviously, if you do all of that, it brings us to Venus. Why? Well, because that all of these patterns that I just labeled obviously somehow make you disconnect you basically from your self-worth, right? And that's really what we've been working on. And now that Chiron helped us with that, Venus comes into focus, and it's like, okay, Chiron moves forward again, we can heal other wounds here relative to our personal power, but now we have to really reassess how we structure the world and how we structure our world more so, and how we build ourselves up from the ground and how we move forward from now on. Because after all of these upgrades and realizations and healing, we just have to approach life in a different way, and we have to take responsibility for the daily actions, right here with the moon in Virgo as well. And we cannot approach our new life in the old way and expect different results and different outcomes. That's where Capricorn can be really harsh and be like, hey, you need to call yourself out here, right? You can just not repeat the same things and expect different results. And then we will have, where did I do this right here? Oh yeah, that's when she ends her retrograde cycle, which is also very telling, on January 29th in 2022. And we end the Venus retrograde, which is again very telling as well, with the Mercury retrograde, right? But also Mercury conjunct Pluto, right? So even when she ends her retrograde, there's a heavy transit going on that transforms literally what you speak into existence, right? How you share your mind and how you, I mean, I see it with Mercury being retrograde at the same time, I see it more so as the complete template of your mind has to reboot, right? Everything has to be rebooted so you can move forward with all of the upgrades that this Venus retrograde also brought to you. There has to be like a complete reboot, and a new software has to be installed, because I mean, your life will never be the same after this retrograde cycle. And that's what we want to keep in mind, and what I see here also with the sun and obviously still Saturn in Aquarius. There's a lot about illuminating the future, right? Illuminating the future, and that you have to really lose your mind and rebuild it in order to move forward, because the mind obviously also creates your life. So that's interesting. But there's more that I wanted to illuminate, and that's what I referred to earlier during the retrograde cycle, or after the retrograde, when she obviously ends her retrograde period at 11 degrees of Capricorn, she will move forward. And one thing that I just wanted to point out here is that you see that she ends her retrograde with a trine to Uranus, who is now also direct motion, basically. Again, telling us that everything that we learned here from basically November 5th until January 29th, so November, December, January, for 3 months, right? Perfect trinity to create, right? Everything that we've learned here, Uranus, it's really supporting us in up-leveling our self-worth and our level of abundance and what we think we deserve, and how we value ourselves, how we love ourselves, how we love the world, how we embody love. And yes, so that's something I wanted to highlight. And then obviously she moves on again, right? So she can at some point enter Aquarius. And when she does that, you can see that she will probably, and that's very true, she will form another conjunction with Mars. So we will have a Mars-Venus conjunction in Capricorn, middle of Capricorn, on February 16, which is very interesting. And that, by the way, is right after the first Pluto return for the United States, just to keep in mind, just another interesting little fact. And it's also what we can see here on a full moon, right? The full moon in Leo. And remember, right, full moon in Leo, I'm really like pointing out Leo because you remember that Chiron retrograde started with a Venus-Mars conjunction in Leo. And here we have the full moon in Leo. So there is the connection right there, which is pretty significant and interesting. And then she will move on. And that's something, when I saw that was just like my mind was blown, because Venus will leave Capricorn on March 6th, right? March 6th. And when she leaves Capricorn, she doesn't just leave Capricorn because that would, be boring. No, she leaves Capricorn with a Mars-Venus conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Now, if you follow the astrology a while, or have been, tracking that, 0 degrees of Aquarius was where we had a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in 2020. That was really, really upgrading our whole frequency on the planet, right? And was kind of like the start of the Aquarian age, however you want to say it, right? And having Mars and Venus now there kind of like brings us back to that vibration and helps us literally following up and like following through with whatever was planted in our consciousness and onto the planet at that 0 degrees of Aquarius point when we had Jupiter and Saturn there. And what we see here is that Jupiter is actually conjunct the Sun at the same time in Pisces, right? Which is a very, very beautiful, beautiful transit. It's like making the light even bigger, right? And when we had that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, it felt like such a big energy anyways. It was also the solstice. It was so big, so bright, right? And now we have a big, big, bright light as well. But this time it is, it's helping us to, the way I see it is with Mars and Venus, they are inner planets, so they're closer to us. So they are more tangible, right? It's on a personal level. You are able to do that now. So maybe back then you got the vision for the future, for the global, on a global picture, right? On a global scale. But now it's on a personal level. What can you actually do with your unique light to create that into the world? Because now you are aware of your responsibility for the planet. Now you're aware of your self-worth and the value that you can bring onto this planet. And now you can really, really shine the brightest light that you can ever imagine. The light basically that you've been given by source, right? That the source, basically the light that you embody. And so I think that's pretty significant. And it's also the reason why I felt so called to share more on this Venus retrograde, and I have a feeling I will talk more about it too. It's such a interesting thing to observe all of these alignments with this retrograde cycle, and I haven't even started about going into why this is connecting us to 2014. Want you to reflect on all the charts that I already shared with you and how crazy the synchronicities are. I mean, with all of that Pluto and Venus alignment, obviously with so many Pluto-Venus alignments, but then also with the intersection with Chiron and the Mars-Venus conjunctions that we will have. And then also really going into, which will be, pretty much here, right, where we have basically the Pluto return of the United States, which will be very significant as well. And maybe I can show you also very quickly. Let me do that real quick, actually. I'm going to show you the connection to the Bitcoin chart, because I think that's also very, very telling. If you really quick want to check out, must be this one. No. Bear with me. No. Anyways, maybe it's not meant to happen. Maybe. This one, and still, okay, we are back at the Venus. But basically, if you can just imagine Bitcoin has a lot of energy in the Capricorn area. So there will be a lot, of course, I was talking more so on a personal level for you, right? But then we have to keep in mind that all Venus related topics will go through that death and rebirth cycle, and everything that is not leading us to a brighter future, to a freer future, right, has to go. And then will be seeking alternatives, not just for our own life, but also for all, again, Venus related things, which brings me to why this period will also be very significant for Bitcoin, especially, and for the crypto market, and because it is the alternative and it is innovation, right? And if you would like to learn more about that, definitely let me know. I also have the webinar, right, all about the astrology of the United States and Pluto return and the Bitcoin chart, and like the charts next to each other, and how that will have a huge impact on 2022. So if you would like to go deeper, I have a webinar on that. It's just $33, and you can just really track and see how, you know, the movements and the transits of the astrology and the Bitcoin chart had some influences on the price development, right? But then also how it could potentially lead to, you know, the prices changing and fluctuating, and yeah, everything in 2022. Obviously not financial advice, it's just observation, and I'm just sharing what I observe, and then you can make your own decision and discernment and really see for yourself where your money is safe, right, and where not. And so yeah, it's very, very fascinating times. And so the reason I also wanted to talk about this is because, and that's where I wanted to actually go. What is this baby here? Oh yeah, we have the sun. Oh yeah, the Venus star point, which is a whole nother thing that we also, of course, have Venus conjunct the sun, which will be on January 9th. Yeah, here we go. So I wanted to also talk really briefly, because I've been already talking a lot about it, and I think I will come back another time for to talk about this Venus retrograde if you would be interested. But the last time we had Venus retrograde in Capricorn was in 2013, so 2013 leading into 2014, because you can see it was also right around Christmas, right? Venus retrograde in Capricorn at the very end of Capricorn, with Pluto also being in Capricorn, of course, and the moon in Leo. Again, we have a lot of Leo energy here. The brightest light, be the star of your own movie, structure your life and structure your world in a way where you are the star of your own movie. And this time we had Mars actually opposite Uranus, which is also very much about, you know, freeing yourself from people pleasing, right? And really, really shattering through all of these limitations relative to your own instincts and impulses, and really freeing yourself from that. So that started basically with this Venus retrograde in 2013. And you can go back and think about, you know, the winter 2013, what happened in your life, what significant things happened for you. Also, because we see that the nodes were basically flipped, right? So we had the North Node in Scorpio and the South Node in Taurus, and this time it's the opposite way, right? So it feels like a balancing act almost of those energies of the feminine, the masculine, of me and you, of the inside and the outside. So it's actually a very beautiful energy that can bring us into harmony if we understand how to do our homework, essentially. And so then we had a Venus star point, January 11th. Exactly, that's why I highlighted it. I had to like double check, why did I even pull up this chart? Yeah, we had a Venus Sun conjunction right there, with Mercury also being in that Capricorn area. And then she ended her retrograde on February 1st in 2014. And she ended her retrograde cycle with an opposition to Jupiter and another Pluto Venus conjunction, right? So it's not leaving us here. And also, of course, the moon and the sun in Aquarius, but then also a lot of Pisces energy, which brings me to this whole, like, it was all about bringing us closer to source, right? Bringing you closer to your soul and the true frequency and energy and soul contract that you have with source. And that's how you want to structure the world, right? Not how the world wants you to live your life. It's more so about what does your soul want you to do here on this planet? Why did you come here, right? That's why I'm so like active and vocal about, you know, if everyone would know their soul contract, and it doesn't even have to be, you know, your soul contract doesn't have to be you change the world and you make that huge impact. For some souls, the soul contract is also to have the, you know, most abundant life, or to be a gardener and to really connect with nature, whatever it may be. Source experiences itself through you and wants to have a specific perspective of what's happening in the world right now in a specific way that only you can live. And that's why you came, right? That's the biggest mission that you can have. And remembering that and coming back to your heart and structuring and really, yeah, structuring your life in that way, that's what you came here to do, right? That's all. And everything that is not in alignment with that just has to go. And I think, you know, over the next months, starting November 5th, we will be reminded of everything that happened in 2013, 2014, which was, you know, a year after 2012, right? And then we will be really able to move forward, because I see that Venus, she will heal a lot in those Capricorn areas. She will be very much transformed as well. And we will come to this realization, I feel, that at the end of the day, we can always count on spirit and count on our soul and count on our connection to source and our heart and the love that we feel inside, and our intuition, our inner wisdom, and our inner compass, really. Also having courage, right? Being more courageous, because there's nothing you have to be afraid of. You're so held. And also exploring, having fun, not taking everything so serious, right? Also, when we talk about finances, yes, it can be scary to lose all of your things, but I mean, what do you really have to lose, right? You don't have anything to lose necessarily. You're so held. So have fun, experiment, and vote with your frequency. I always say that we vote with our frequency. So money is also a frequency. Do you vote for not giving money to, you know, innovation or to startups or to new projects, to entrepreneurs, because you're so concerned with your own safety? Or do you explore things, and do you vote for change? Do you vote for an alternative by, for example, investing in crypto, or by, for example, you know, giving something to a local? It's like we just have to really make sure that we realize that we are the determining factor of changing something by changing what we do on a day-to-day basis. If we have the same spending habits as our parents, then we don't break through any cycles, right? If we have the same scarcity around things, around self-worth, about putting yourself out there, about creating things, and about sharing a message, if the same scarcity, then that's the vibration you put out there. And if you really want to restructure the world and how we live together here also as a human family, then we have to take responsibility for that. And that's also very Capricorn. I mean, I have my moon in Capricorn, so I'm excited to see how this retrograde is playing out for me, and also my Saturn return right in the middle of this Venus retrograde. So there's definitely a lot happening for me on my personal side, also because I remember in 2013 and 2014, that's when I was inpatient in a treatment center. And so all of these subjects are coming back to the surface, which is interesting too. And I think it is because we really want to let go of these chapters and the strings attached and that old version of ourselves too. So I pray that, you know, it got you excited and optimistic about what's coming too. But also very, you know, it is about doing the work, right? Capricorn is about doing the work. We cannot sugarcoat it, but it always rewards you. It's the same with Saturn, right? You have to do work. It won't be an easy ride, and there will be setbacks, there will be restrictions, there will be pullbacks, all of it. It will not be easy, but remembering the philosophy of Capricorn, which is one step at a time, right? Always a little bit, right? And then you will get there on top of the mountain, and you will enjoy the view, and it will be so worth it. So worth it. So please do the work. Do it for yourself, because the view up there will be insanely beautiful. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, let me know your thoughts on this Venus retrograde. Also, if you remember everything, recall anything from 2013, 2014. If you would like to share anything else, use the comment sections. If you would like a reading for this very significant time, to really, you know, especially if you have a lot of Capricorn planets and want to know what that could mean for you, because obviously we have a lot of things already going on, but if you already have, or if you also have some Venus, some Capricorn placements that are significant, like the sun or the moon or Mars and Venus also there, if you have a Venus, you know, return during a Venus retrograde, there's a lot that we can talk about in your chart and see what the universe wants you to learn at this time. And I would love to shine a light on that. All the obviously infos for booking reading are down below, or just reach out to me on Instagram, Magic Kathi Official. And yeah, I'm excited for us. It feels like a big shift on a personal but also global level, and you shall see, because I mean, again, the Pluto return of the US is also around the same time, so there are a lot of things happening at once, right? It feels like this big explosion in a good way. So we will probably talk more about it. For now, I let you digest all of that, and I'm excited to hear from you. Thank you for your feedback, your love, and we'll speak soon. Step in your magic.